It was, a lot of basic cable rabbit ears.
Mm-hmm.
But we were during lockdown. I was in trouble a lot, which means I had to spend a lot more time in my cell. Oh no, everybody hated me. I was a menace. I was the worst. I was horrible. But it takes a football team of lawyers and a mountain of paperwork and a prayer. And the prayer is the most important part of it.
He weighed 540 pounds. He had a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. 40 arrests before age 25. At 16, he was charged with a felony that still strips him of basic civil rights today. But somehow, Jelly Roll didn't just survive. He became one of the biggest, most beloved names in music. What changed? How does someone go from solitary confinement to Saturday Night Live? From being told he'd never amount to anything to headlining sold-out arenas? This isn't just a weight loss story. Though yes, he's lost nearly 200 pounds and is gunning for 100 more. It's not just a comeback. It's a total transformation of body, soul, and purpose. Because Jelly Roll isn't just making hits. He's mentoring inmates, healing trauma, and inspiring millions with brutal honesty. The man who once believed he'd die in prison now dreams of skydiving, living clean, and using every scar as a lesson. And fans are noticing, not just because he's thinner, but because he's real, flawed, fearless, and willing to talk about the hard stuff. Addiction, depression, redemption. So if you think you've seen a transformation before, think again. This is the real Jelly Roll story, and it's just getting started. Before the sold-out shows and streaming millions, there was Jason DeFord, a kid growing up in Antioch, Tennessee, surrounded by chaos. His mother battled addiction for most of his childhood. His father, a meat salesman by day, a bookie by night. It wasn't your average upbringing, but it laid the foundation for a voice that knew pain, survival, and hustle. By age 9, Jelly Roll was already writing rap lyrics, using music as an escape. The streets were loud, the house unstable, but the notebook gave him peace. A place where his pain had purpose. While other kids were playing ball, he was learning how to rhyme, vent, and survive. The school offered little structure. Home offered even less. With no role models, no money, and no real direction, trouble was never far. He found himself in and out of juvenile detention centers before he could legally drive. He wasn't bad, he was broken, and no one was coming to fix it. This was a childhood that didn't offer dreams, just distractions. But deep down, Jelly Roll knew he was different, that the chaos around him didn't have to define him forever. And that belief, small, quiet, and stubborn, would one day save his life. By the time he turned 25, Jelly Roll had been arrested nearly 40 times. Drugs, theft, assault, the charges piled up like his rap lyrics. But it wasn't until one night in 2008 that everything changed. Locked up once again, he was called into a holding cell. There, a guard told him, "You have a daughter." The words hit harder than any sentence the court could give. At that moment, Jelly Roll didn't feel like a criminal. He felt like a father and a failure. He didn't want his daughter growing up wondering why daddy was never around. That thought haunted him. So inside that jail cell, he made a decision most men make in freedom. He vowed to change. He earned his GED behind bars. He started writing with more purpose. The music wasn't just therapy now, it was a promise. A promise to her and to himself. That wake-up call in jail didn't end his story, it rebooted it. And it turned a lost man into one obsessed with redemption. Jelly Roll didn't know how he'd get out, but he knew who he wanted to become if he ever did. And that made all the difference. Redemption didn't come easy. Jelly Roll wasn't instantly a perfect dad or partner. The streets were still calling and old habits die hard. But something was shifting. Slowly, painfully, for real. Then came Bunny. Their relationship started in the shadows, messy, chaotic, even toxic at times. But Bunny saw something in him that he couldn't yet see in himself. She loved the broken pieces and helped him put them back together. They got married in 2016, but not in some glamorous ceremony, in a gritty Vegas chapel. And somehow, it fit them perfectly. More than a wife, Bunny became his teammate in the fight to rebuild. She helped him reconnect with his daughter. She stood by him through the hustle, the struggle, and the climb. She believed in music before the world did. With Bunny by his side, Jelly Roll didn't just become a better man, he became a real father. One who showed up, one who healed, one who listened. Family wasn't a fairy tale for him, it was a fight. But he fought every day. And in that fight, he found the kind of love that doesn't fix you. It holds you together while you fix yourself. Jelly Roll didn't start in a studio, he started in a van, touring grimy bars, selling CDs from the trunk, and crashing on floors. No label, no budget, just raw talent and a story that begged to be heard. He blended what he knew, the pain of country ballads, the grit of rap, the soul of gospel, and the angst of rock. The result? A sound that didn't fit in until it exploded. He wasn't just making songs, he was bleeding into every verse. Tracks like Save Me and Son of a Sinner weren't just hits, they were confessions. You didn't just listen to them, you felt them. Raw, messy, honest, no filter, no gloss. And fans did feel it, because they weren't perfect either. They'd made mistakes, they'd fought demons. Jelly Roll gave them an anthem for the broken and the healing. His music didn't judge, it welcomed. His shows weren't concerts, they were church. People cried, people screamed, people healed. Strangers hugged, tough men broke down. Teenagers brought their parents, and everyone sang like their lives depended on it, because sometimes they did. He told stories no one else would, about addiction, about prison, about guilt, but also about redemption, forgiveness, and hope. His vulnerability cracked something open in others. He wasn't just making noise, he was making people feel seen. And all of it, the pain, the bars, the heartbreak, became fuel for something bigger. Jelly Roll wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing meaning. Because for him, every lyric was a lifeline. And music wasn't just what saved him, it was how he started saving others. It turned pain into purpose, and that purpose turned into power. For most of his life, Jelly Roll carried more than just emotional weight. He carried over 540 pounds on his frame. And every pound had a story of trauma, of survival, of shame. Food wasn't just food, it was comfortable, a reward, a distraction. It was his drug of choice when the pain got too loud. And like any addiction, it controlled him, quietly, constantly, completely. But by 2023, he had enough. Enough of the exhaustion, the breathlessness, the way it held him back from everything he wanted, including skydiving. So he made a decision to change. Not with fad diets or crash plans, but with small, brutal consistency. Walking every day, ice baths, water gallons, diet tweaks, learning to say no. Not just to food, but to the old patterns that had kept him trapped. He dropped nearly 200 pounds by 2025, and he's not done yet. His goal? To lose 100 more. Not for vanity, but for vitality. He wants to live, not just exist. He wants to play with his daughter without losing his breath, to get on that plane, to skydive, to defy the body that once held him prisoner. But the hardest weight wasn't physical, it was emotional. The inner voice that told him he wasn't worth saving, that he'd fail, that he was still that broken kid from Antioch. So he fought back with therapy, with honesty, with showing up even on the dark days, even when no one was watching, especially then. And what is he building now? It's not a six-pack, it's the future. One where his story doesn't end in shame, but in strength. One where the mirror reflects not just a changed man, but a free one. With the weight falling off and the music rising up, Jelly Roll hit levels no one, including himself, ever expected. He topped Billboard's Emerging Artists chart. He won awards that once felt out of reach. He sold out arenas that used to feel like distant dreams. Then came the calls from Saturday Night Live, from Tulsa King, from the world finally ready to hear him. But it wasn't just the charts or the fame. It was the people. Veterans battling PTSD, recovering addicts, single moms, teenagers lost in their heads. They showed up, and he showed up for them. Night after night, city after city. Jelly Roll became a voice for the voiceless, a tattooed preacher for the brokenhearted. And he used that voice for more than just verses. He spoke at jails, funded rehab centers, advocated for prison reform and second chances. He didn't just escape his past. He turned it into a platform, a mission. He wasn't the industry's idea of a star, but he was real, raw, and relentless. And that's exactly what made people believe. And as the records broke, something bigger built in its place, a legacy, one made not of awards, but of lives changed, hope renewed, and stories rewritten. From a jail cell to the top of the charts, from 540 pounds to the edge of a skydive, from forgotten to unforgettable. Jelly Roll's story isn't just about second chances. It's about creating the life you were told you could never have, about proving the system wrong, about turning every scar, every failure, every mistake into a stepping stone. He didn't have the cleanest past, he didn't have the perfect look, but he had the one thing no label could manufacture: truth. And that truth, raw, unpolished, and full of heart, is why millions listen. Why do they cry at his shows? Why do they see themselves in his songs? Because if Jelly Roll can rise from the darkest places, maybe they can too. His story is still being written. The weight loss journey isn't done. The redemption arc isn't over. But what he's shown us so far, it's already enough to believe in something better. If you've ever felt like it was too late, let this be your reminder. It's not. And if you felt this story, like, subscribe, and keep watching, because the next chapter is coming and you won't want to miss it.